Georgie Barden from the University of Canberra, and Georgie already introduced herself early on, so I think without further ado, let's send it over to Georgie.
Thank you. Yes, so I introduced myself as being, as Shane being my manager, but so I'm from the University of Canberra. My role at the University of Canberra is as the support and innovation team leader, and that's the support for the virtual learning environments. So the reason that I'm here today is to talk about how we use ePortfolios, how we use Mahara at the University of Canberra, and how that has developed over time. I went to the ePortfolio forum in September last year, and I found myself answering these two questions quite frequently. So I thought, why not just formalise it and tell everybody about it in a presentation. So how do we get people to use Mahara at the University of Canberra, and how do we support the use of Mahara once they start using it? So just to give you a bit of an overview, this is the trajectory of Mahara usage at the University of Canberra, starting in 2010 when we had around 800 accounts, through to the top of that line there is now. It's April 2017. So I expect, being at 26,000 accounts right now, by the end of this year we'll be up around 35,000 accounts. So you can see the steady sort of increase in usage at the University of Canberra, and there's a bit of a spike where it starts, that line gets a little bit more, the line is increasing more quickly, and that coincided with the introduction of a common first year unit at the University of Canberra, which I'll tell you about later. We'll start with the early introduction of Mahara at UC and how we managed that. Actually, Shane, who was the keynote this morning, was the primary person who was implementing Mahara at UC. And we started with early champions in the Faculty of Arts and Design, with one unit there, sound design and production. Followed the next year with another unit in education, learning with technology, and a discipline in health, occupational therapy. Then the following year we had a community of practice developing, and we had more interest from other degrees and from other disciplines. So you can see a lot of that is in health and education, where they are measuring themselves against the external accreditation, or the students are attaining those competencies. It was also taken up by the Wiradjuri preschool at the university. So the way that we supported those early champions, it was mainly with one-to-one at-elbow educational design and technical support, focused workshops, and then I think Shane went to some lectures to assist the academics with student support, so they felt that they weren't alone, that someone was there to help the students understand what Mahara was and how to use it as well. And then a really important part of that early support was recording those stories for other people. So,
before you move on,
yeah.
The workshops were for staff and students, or both?
For staff, and focused on their specific requirements for Mahara, for how they could use ePortfolio practice in their teaching. This is the site within Mahara where the user stories have been collected, including the reasons for adopting ePortfolio practice. So as each new academic or each discipline took up ePortfolio practice, they've explained why they have adopted Mahara, so that other people who are interested can come along and see whether that relates to their teaching and whether they could use that in their teaching. This is a public site in our Mahara, so it's actually Googleable, and the URL is in the presentation. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. So, moving on from our early adopters, the thing that really caused that spike in our usage of Mahara is the common first year unit. So, this is a central unit that's run by Teaching and Learning for all students who enter an undergraduate degree. It's part of their degree now. Originally, as you can see, in 2014 we just had 2 faculties who were taking part. It started slowly and gained momentum. 60% of the assessment in 2014 was done in Mahara. And we had about 200 students per teaching period in 2014. Then since then, over the last couple of years, it's grown so that now every faculty and our partners, domestic and international, are all taking part in this unit, which now includes a 50% e-portfolio assessment. That means that every student at the University of Canberra who's beginning an undergraduate unit is using Mahara, and the focus of the assessment is on developing a CV, writing a cover letter, developing a 5-year plan, and doing an industry analysis and thinking about how they see themselves as a professional in their field in the coming years. So every student who is beginning a degree at UC gets that exposure to thinking in that way and using an e-portfolio. This is just a little screenshot of that teaching site for this semester, including we're in Moodle at the moment. This is an e-book in Moodle that the students undertaking that unit can use to help themselves get set up with Mahara, including some examples from previous teaching periods. But what has happened there is that because all of our students are getting that exposure to e-portfolios early on, it's also involving a lot of the staff. Because the unit is so large, it means that we have a unit convener who's in charge of the entire unit, but also discipline conveners from the faculties who all come together as part of a larger teaching team. And that means that they're also starting to see what affordances Mahara has and how they could maybe use it in their own teaching. So that's gathering interest in that way. We also, an informal way that we're supporting our staff is that we have a graduate certificate in tertiary education that's recently been developed, which is free for UC staff to do, and the assessment within that entire degree, so it's one 12 credit point unit which has a 100% assessment in Mahara. So what they do is, I won't focus too much on this process, but the GCTE is aligned with a HEA fellowship, so the learning outcomes for the GCTE in many ways match with the HEA fellowship. So once the students or our staff who are doing the GCTE have completed their account of professional practice, it can form the basis, which is their capstone, that's their assessment in that degree, that forms the basis of an application for a HEA fellowship. So that's a big motivation for our staff to go in and complete this. They get a qualification for free, plus at the moment, at least, the university is also paying for those people to go on and get their HEA fellowship. So all of this, they're all centralised teaching and learning units and degrees, both of these things, which are using Mahara or e-portfolio practice as the main form of assessment. So that's an informal way, the GCTE, that we support staff, but I thought I would also talk about the more formal ways that we support staff using Mahara. We have a help site in our LMS, that's Moodle at the moment, where an entire section is dedicated to Mahara. We also have a support page in Mahara itself, which I'll show you. And the ways that we support them, staff beyond that first tier online support. We have a ticketing system, so at any time anyone has a problem, they can put a ticket in, which my team resolves. We also have drop-in support. So we actually have daily drop-ins, 2 hours every day, and we increase that during the times of most need, which we've identified as being the week, sort of O week or the week before to prepare for semester, and then also the exam weeks to prepare for scheduling grades back to our student management system. So getting all the grades in order and making sure the gradebook is configured and everything. So that's mainly Moodle support, which is of course still our top kind of support that we're providing is for Moodle, but Mahara is definitely the second most requested issue.
There's a question there.
Yeah.
Does your drop-in support virtual loading students? Or is it
Okay, so at the moment this is staff support, but yes, we have virtual support for our staff as well. We have a room in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra where we provide support. Currently we're running them separately, but we're going to combine them later this year because we don't have a huge uptake for the online support. So we're going to run them at the same time. Workshops, in the past, when I have run Mahara workshops just for anyone who's interested to come along, I've found it's really difficult to be productive, to get anything to happen in those workshops because you have people, well, first of all, we don't have really high attendance to those, and secondly, we'll have people coming with different levels of experience and knowledge, and also just really different contexts and ways that they would use Mahara. So we've stopped just running workshops and asking people, whoever's interested, to come along. At this point, if there's one person who's interested, they can come to our drop-in, and all of our staff who man the drop-in are skilled enough in Mahara that they can support the initial inquiries. Workshops we run now at a faculty level or a discipline level. If we have interest from a faculty, we will design the workshop with the faculty so that we're meeting their needs. Okay, now I don't know how to. So this is the page in Mahara, which you can get to when you're logged into Mahara. This page is actually public, but when you're logged into Mahara, on your dashboard you have a little button that says support. So it'll take you to this page, and this speaks to staff and students, so they know where to go to get further help in the LMS, the dedicated pages in the LMS, but also has information about why people, so that's a link to the page that I showed you before, why people are using Mahara, information about policy, rules and guidelines, and also alumni access and information for students who are graduating and want to retain access to their e-portfolios after graduating. So currently that's not a automatic process. They have to request that they want to keep their e-portfolio, and then we will grant them alumni access. I don't know how to make this be big again without going back to the start, but I'll just, down here, haha, yay. Oh, and then I realised that I have another URL, good job. Okay, so the URL, that URL is taking us to this page, which Shane just realised the other day has a tremendous number of hits, it's like over 1 million hits. This is an also a public page. All the pages I'm showing you are public and Googleable. This one has a lot of information back from 2011 or so through to current about what e-portfolios are and why people use them, reflections, etc. So we have all that support available for those who are looking for it. Our key support queries for Mahara are just the basics. So we have people coming in knowing nothing about Mahara and just wanting to learn how to do things, how to set up pages, how they could use it in their assessment. Obviously that's the in their unit, in their teaching, in their to support their students. And then we also have the more advanced queries are about how to create a template so that their students can copy them, which includes information about creating groups and giving people access and all that kind of stuff. And then tagging is one of the more advanced concepts that people are requiring support for. So I'll move on to student support. Originally I had intended to present with someone from Study Skills from the University of Canberra, but she has moved on elsewhere, so she's not here today, so I'll do my best to to cover that off. Our student support, we again, similar to our staff support, we have a site dedicated to help for students in our LMS and a whole section about IT skills, which includes information about Mahara. That support page that I just showed you was also full of information for students. They also provide drop-in support. They do 2 hours a day with an extra session occasionally. So they'll have some mornings, some afternoons, and then they'll throw in another one occasionally, depending on need, I think. They also have Ask Advisors, or what used to be called Rovers. They were called Rovers last year. This year they're called Ask Advisors. And this is from last year. There's statistics from last year where the primary kind of support, the Rovers, that's students who are employed by the library to be in the library and to be present, wearing shirts that say that they are Rovers, or now Ask Advisors, so that students can approach them with questions. And the primary kind of support that they were giving was technical support. And the primary technical support that they were giving was for Mahara. So a lot of student support for Mahara. They're mainly for the Rovers. The study skills drop-ins that they run 6 times a week, their technical and product support is much less common. So it's down the other end, but still something that students are asking in those sessions. Clearly, if students have issues with grammar and structuring assignments and understanding assignments, they go to the study skills drop-ins. And if they have an issue with the system, or with how do I tag my evidence in Mahara, they'll just grab someone wearing a purple shirt who is an Ask Advisor in the library. So that is student support. And just briefly about the future of UC and the future of Mahara at UC. Shane alluded to talked about our VLE implementation. So he talked about the requirements gathering, and now we're at the stage of implementing. So over the next couple of years we're having a massive overhaul of all our systems. We're switching from Moodle to Canvas, and we are sticking with Mahara, but we will be updating Mahara in the middle of the year this year to 1704. So we will be implementing smart evidence, and that will create a new wave of support for the use of that. So it is a key staff development focus at UC, reflective practice, e-portfolio practice, and how to make that part of your teaching. Not just teaching a unit, but teaching course So sort of vertical assessment, or how to embed that within the degree and not just the unit. So we do have a number of disciplines who have teaching pracs or work placements, and they'll have 2 units each year of their degree, leading up to a capstone or leading up to a reflection on how they've attained the external accreditation standards. The other key thing for us at UC is that reflective practice does represent one of the key pedagogical approaches for course design. So it's become embedded in our culture. And we know that over the next couple of years, alongside our VLE implementation, we're also going to be doing a lot of redesign, redevelopment of the courses that we offer at UC. And so embedding it even further will be one of the goals. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Yes.
Georgie, you mentioned that the Ask Advisors answer a lot of technical questions, in particular to Mahara. Do you have an overview of what sort of questions those are, and whether anything of that feedback, kind of 10 times asked the same question, goes back into how you structure maybe additional support material for the students and staff?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm the it's the other person who's not here. But they do collect a lot of data, and I know when I said I was doing this and do you have any information that I should have, I was given lots of information and lots of data. So I know that they do have a process of feeding back what the common issues are, and they do have the online support that they offer is, I shouldn't be saying we, at UC, the online support that we offer is upgraded, and we also have regular training for our Ask Advisors. So if there are common issues, the Ask Advisors will be trained up in those issues.
Georgie, is there an issue that comes up all the time, especially with all your new students that are coming through doing that prep sort of module in Mahara? Is there an issue that is predominant or the one issue that comes up all the time that's asked?
I think even now a lot of students are confused about sharing. We've tried to make it really clear in all of our support that the way that everything is set up, you're not sharing with anyone unless you choose to. And, you know, it's your portfolio and you're not sharing it with anyone unless you change the sharing settings or you submit it to an assessment Dropbox. Once you've done that, you're sharing it with the markers.
So it's kind of like trying to make a shift away from the Facebook mentality that I post something on Facebook, everyone can see it. If I post something on Twitter, everyone can see it by default. And then if I want to make it more private or more selective, I change it. Whereas Mahara is kind of
The opposite, yes, yes.
Private by default, public by, amending those settings.
That's right.
The other way around.
That sounds dangerous. I'm always astounded by how many students manage to make everything public without, without wanting to. You can't do that unless you go and change the setting, and yet there are always all these pages that are published that everyone has access to. Yeah, Shane.
I think that the traffic support, the situation is that because social media doesn't have the defined granular sort of Mahara, but you can see the public or private. I think they're being trained to think like that. So when they want to share it, I've got to make it public.
Yeah.
And they don't, and then of course they don't necessarily do some instructions. So the students say, the other day, they don't read necessarily. You share it by doing this, they just go, oh, public, that's easy. Public.
Yes. Well, I know that in the Common First Year unit in Foundations of Professional Planning that there are support resources that are have been specifically designed to explain to students what the privacy settings are and to understand how it works. But you know, we still have those issues. Yeah.
I'm interested in what you say is the link between the sources you learn and the HEA. But how do you map the criteria that you
So there is, I ummed and ahed about how much of this to put into the presentation because there's a lot of information down to the level of this assessment or this focus, this outcome maps to these components of the HEA. Now, we have our, sorry, did I interrupt?
So,
yep.
HEA, that's the UK.
Yeah,
scheme?
yes, yep. We have our GCTE split up into 6 focuses. It's assessment, technology, I think, and I'm at a loss at the moment to remember what they all are. I should know what they all are. But yeah, each of those focuses maps to different components of the HEA. And so the participants in the GCTE will do staff development activities, apply it to their teaching, reflect on how they have improved their teaching or how they have changed their teaching, and that becomes the evidence that they use for the GCTE. The GCTE requires a lot of evidence, which is why we're using e-portfolios, why we're using Mahara, but the HEA is a written application. That's right. So the way that the GCTE is structured is to get people to think about how to apply what they're doing to those criteria and provide the evidence to say that they really, you know, this is how they have done it. But then the application is a written application, but it can refer to evidence. It just, I don't think you can submit evidence with it. Yeah.
And the success rate of people doing it that way, or do you think they are useful to do the two concurrently?
So the the GCTE was launched in the middle of the year last year, I believe, and it's we don't have any graduates yet. It's a 12-month. I think it says to. Oops. I'll just point at my screen that you can't see. To complete the GCTE, they need to take 12 months, and then it's a one assessment that they do. So we don't have any graduates yet.
So that was a university-wide initiative to align your sort of in-house teacher qualification with the HEA.
Yeah, it's a centralised, it's come from Teaching and Learning, and the GCTE has been designed by Teaching and Learning. So it's a university initiative, yeah. Yep.
Thank you very much, Georgie, for providing us insight into scaling up in portfolio implementations that organized in especially universities. It's never easy. So it's really good to see what you have done over the years, how you support your students and staff with it. And we look forward to hearing more about it at some other point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.